I was so dedicated to my dream that I actually stopped associating with all my family. Man, I gotta do this dream. I'm gonna chase this. I'm gonna make so much money. But my son hates my guts. As you climb the ladder of success, your ass is exposed. You better cover your ass. There's a lot of things that you're not doing in your life that you should be doing. I never want to live like that. You know, for years, what I used to do is I had this mentality in my early 20s that it's all about the dream. That's it. You got to have a dream. The dream, the destination is what gives you meaning to your life. And you got to put aside everything else and just go for the number one dream that you have in your life and just give it everything you got. That's the attitude that I had in my 20s. And I was doing it. I was chasing this particular dream that I had 7 days a week, nonstop. The dream, the dream, the dream. I just kept thinking of that. And all of a sudden, I started realizing something. I was so dedicated to my dream that I actually stopped associating with all my family. It's like they'd invite me to events and I would say, sorry, I'm away that weekend. Sorry, I'm away that day. Because in my mind, it was like everything was a distraction. And so I was totally focused on this dream. And I realized all of a sudden I was getting unhealthy because I was never exercising. I didn't care about my health. I didn't care about relationships. I didn't have a spiritual relationship at the time. The only thing that I was programmed in my mind was your dream is what gives meaning to your life. Because when you obtain this dream, you're going to have a specific lifestyle. And so I was just chasing it over and over and over again. And after I would say about 5 years, I obtained a certain level of financial success. And all of a sudden, I thought that my life was going to change just like that overnight. But it dawned on me, the day that I hit that level, nothing changed. Because on that day, I'm looking around, I'm thinking, why does this seem like I've gotten somewhere? Like I just opened the door into a room and it's just empty. And that is when I realized it was so much more exhilarating the day before I achieved that level of success because I was still excited. I was still fired up. I was still chasing it. But then when I finally obtained that goal, it was like it was over. This happened to me. But then obviously they say, set a new goal, chase a new dream. And I did. But what I realized, everything changed when I watched this one movie. And this movie was an old movie. I discovered it by mistake. It was called Citizen Kane. And the movie itself is about a 10-year-old kid who loved his mom. His mom used to take him out on the snow. He's sitting on his sledge. He was always being pulled by his mom on the snow, and he just loved his mom so much. But the fact is, his name was Kane. He lived in a house where his father used to abuse him physically and verbally. He was a drunk, and his mother knew it. She knew that she had to get her son out of that house before the father eventually kills him and her. So what she did was she made a deal with a banker. She went to a banker and she said, look, I'm going to allow you to adopt my son because you don't have any kids of your own, and I know you want kids. So I'm actually going to allow you to adopt him and take him and raise him as your own son. And she literally gave him away at the age of 10 to this guy that the kid didn't even know who he was. And so at the age of 10, he left the house, went with the banker, and he felt he was completely abandoned by the only person in the world that ever loved him, and that was his mother. And now the banker's raising this kid. By the age of 25, this kid, who now is a man, finds out that his parents had died and that he inherited millions and millions of dollars. I mean, the fortune from the oil company that his parents had made him one of the richest men in America. He had all this wealth, and all his life he wanted to build businesses, but he didn't realize that his real dream, that even he himself didn't know, was to somehow capture that love that his mother didn't give to him. Because in his heart, he felt an emptiness, that all his life he was trying to put that love that he didn't get from his mother back into his heart. So what he did with his money, first of all, he bought a palace on 49,000 acres of land. And in the palace, he had every type of priceless statues and art collection in his house because he knew people loved this stuff, and that if he invited people, important people over to see the art collection, see his palace, that because they love those things, that he could capture some of that love. And then he set up a zoo on his property because he knew people loved animals, and he could somehow capture a little little bit of that love that they would give to the animals. Obviously, it didn't work. And then what happened was he started getting power because of his wealth. And what he did was he started trying to control people. He tried to get people to serve him and get them to love him. But he never gave anything back to them. And every single person that ever met this guy literally hated his guts. He was married twice. The first wife left him. The second wife was about to leave him. And as she was leaving, he said to her, "Please don't go." And it looked like she was going to turn around and come back. And then he said those magic words. He said to her, "You can't do this to me." And that's when she looked at him and she said, "You know, it's always about you." Because he said, "You can't do this to me. You can't leave me alone." Because he's still thinking that he's got a void in his heart, but he doesn't know where it's coming from. And so he says to his wife, "You can't do this to me. You can't leave." And she said, "It's always about you and everything that you want." And she walked out and left him as well. And the crazy thing is, everybody from the outside looked at this guy as though he had it all. He had all the money that anybody could ever dream of. This guy's living the life, but he was miserable. And he died in his bed at an old age, alone and miserable. And they showed in this movie as he died, he had in his hand a snow globe. And inside the snow globe, there was a word. It said rosebud. And as he died, he let the snow globe come out of his hand and it rolled onto the floor. And you saw rosebud. And what rosebud meant was that was the name of his sledge that he used to sit on as his mother used to pull him in the snow. All his life, that was the only time that he ever felt loved by his mother. And his entire life went by trying to capture that love that he lost when he was abandoned by his mother. Now, after watching this movie, I realized it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter about the lifestyle. It doesn't matter about the dreams that you're chasing. Your entire success in your life, as far as I was concerned, is sitting at the top of a pyramid. That pyramid supports your dream, your achievement, the thing that you've accomplished in your life that everybody else thinks, man, he's successful. That is the foundation that your success sits on. But that success, that foundation is the journey. It's the way you lived your life. And I realized from this movie that he had the success everybody wanted, but the foundation that he was sitting on, the journey that he traveled to get it, or in his terms, he didn't really get it. He was given it. It was crumbling. The foundation was crumbling because he didn't live his life right. In the end, if he had paid attention to the way he lived his life, he wouldn't have died alone and miserable. And after watching that movie, I started thinking to myself, I heard this phrase, as you climb the ladder of success, as you go up higher and higher, your ass is exposed. Everybody's looking at your butt as you go up the ladder to success. And so when you climb the ladder of success and your butt is exposed, you better cover your ass. You better make sure you lived your life right, because it's only when you achieve a certain level of success that now people start looking at who you really are. They look at your life. They looked at how you lived. And the number one person who's ever going to look back is me. I'm the one who's going to look back at my life thinking, man, I should have lived my life a little different because I don't feel that good. Even though I've obtained all this success, it's changed my lifestyle, but didn't make me who I am. Look at the way I lived my life. And right there, I realized I can't go back and change the way I lived my life or change the way that I created the lifestyle that I'm trying to achieve. So I better pay attention to the way that I live my life as I'm chasing my dream. I have this philosophy. There is time for every important thing in your life. All you have to do is manage your priority, because when you open up your planner, it's all empty until you fill it out. But when you fill it out, it's your choice what you put in there. If you're chasing a dream and you're building a business and one of your clients phone you and say, I need to meet with you tomorrow, to meet the shareholders for 6 hours. Like that, all of a sudden, a 6-hour meeting just popped up in your calendar and it wasn't even your choice, but it was their choice and you did it. So now imagine if that person who phoned you was your kid. Hey, Dad, just calling you saying we need to pencil in a 6-hour trip to the zoo. Can you do it? Of course you can do it. You're just gonna have to want to do it. But that kid don't want to do it every day, but it might be good to do it once every 2 weeks. Just understand, all this is gonna give you power and fuel when you feel peace, knowing, you know what, I really enjoyed that time with my son. What do you think it's gonna do for you as you're chasing your dream? It's gonna give you more power, knowing that you've got a great relationship with your kid. And that power is gonna affect how you obtain your goal, rather than thinking, man, I gotta do this dream, I wanna chase this, I wanna make so much money. Oh, my son hates my guts. How's that giving you power? It's not. You feel so good when you know that you've taken care of all the other priorities in your life, so you're totally free to get on with your work, to get on with chasing that dream. It just gives you a different sense of feeling. I mean, imagine you're chasing this dream and you're thinking, man, my kids actually know what I'm doing and they love it. My wife or my husband knows why I'm doing this and they're supportive. It just gives you a completely different feeling inside of power, rather than, man, another night I gotta tell my wife or my kids that I'm not gonna be home. How does that even empower you? That'll drain you. That's why I believe the journey is just as important as the success or the goal that we want to achieve, because once we achieve it, it's over. That's it. We're done. It's not that we've achieved it. It's we're gonna think about, how do we feel now? And that's when we're gonna look back. You know, the dream gives you the power to run the journey, to live, to go through the struggles to obtain your achievement. That's the thing that's going to change you. You know, sometimes we don't realize that we're chasing a dream, but we're not living our life the right way. And we're not going to realize that until we're forced to think about that. And so I was listening to this one guy and he was saying, he goes, imagine if you found out you had 6 months to live. Would you change anything in the way that you live your life? And I thought, I don't know. And as I was thinking this, he says, if you start saying, yeah, I'd change this and I'd change this and I'd change this because I only got 6 months left to live. He goes, what does that tell you? It tells you that there's a lot of things that you're not doing in your life that you should be doing. And that now that you found out you got 6 months to live, now all of a sudden you want to change everything. But I thought to myself, if somebody said to me, okay, you got 6 months to live, what would you change? There's not a lot that I would actually change in my life, because I'm already paying attention to all the different areas of my life and it just feels good. And then I heard this other guy say, and I imagine if you actually died 5 minutes ago and you're standing over your dead body, you still have the same thoughts, the same feelings as you had when you were in your body, but now you ain't living anymore. You're looking over your body because now it's over. Your life is over. The only question now is, do you have any regrets on the way you lived your life? Because now it's over. You can't go back and change anything. And at that point, I started thinking to myself, I never want to live like that. I ain't perfect. I make mistakes all the time, but I'm trying my best to make sure that if I drop dead tomorrow, that I'm proud of the way that I've lived my life up to now. There's nothing that I would want to go back and change drastically because I didn't pay attention to it. And that gives me peace to keep chasing my dream for the future.